Hey, everybody, good morning, and welcome to day 9 of the 12 days of articles in review. It's January 3rd, the year 2022. And my name, I'm talking to the world, and my name is Mary Coughlin. Mary Coughlin. I'm a neonatal nurse practitioner by training and the president of Caring Essentials. And this is my annual 12 days of articles in review. So today I was looking for an article that kind of picked up on a point that I referred to in yesterday's article, talking about the implications of the COVID pandemic on foundational nursing care and that sort of thing, and the concept of an inhumane healthcare system kind of came up in my head. And so I was really kind of reviewing current literature. I know there's some literature that's been that's looked in the past at how our healthcare system has contributed to compassion fatigue, burnout, depersonalization, all those kinds of things. And so I was looking for something that was pretty contemporary and talking about strategies, right, to override this kind of embedded inhumanity that we have in our healthcare system. So I stumbled across a few articles around compassion, compassionate care. How can we educate folks on compassionate care, that sort of thing, quality of care. And then I stumbled across this really interesting paper that I thought sounded like a cool, maybe first step, baby step, to start to begin to shift the existing paradigm in healthcare. And it, for me, like the secret bullet of this paper is the piece when they talk about reflection and the impact of reflection. In my work, I've found reflection really giving people the time and the space to do reflection really is that it's that way of really reconnecting with their power within, with their consciousness, with their purpose and passion. So I was really intrigued by this paper. So you can see I've got the citation written up here in the chat box. And for folks that are going to watch this on YouTube, it's down in the description, the title of the paper. It was open access, which I was delighted for. And the topic of the title of the paper, published in Academic Medicine, is called Humanizing the Morbidity and Mortality Conference. We didn't call it MM Conference, we called it MM Rounds. But either way, it's a relatively universal concept that actually has its beginnings back in, Willikers, the early 20th century. I don't have the exact year, but the concept was introduced by Ernest Amory Codman, who was a physician at Mass General Hospital. And what he used to do is he used to make a list of his patients and their outcomes and use that information as a means to educate himself and his colleagues on best practices in surgical management, right? So he would review the cases and then see what could we have done better, what did we do good, and that sort of thing. And in 1983, this idea of reviewing patients' outcomes became a mandatory component of resident training programs through the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education. But this concept is not just for physicians. This concept has relevance for nursing as well. And in the work that I do with regard to this idea of trauma-informed care and developmentally supportive care, I talk a lot about the importance of debriefing critical incidents. And that's kind of what M&M rounds are all about, right? It's about debriefing critical incidents. Now, they are critical incidents with regard to medical outcomes, but I think, any kind of a critical incident really is up for grabs, and creating these processes where we can enable people to debrief and process what had happened. But let me get back to the paper. So the authors, Dr. Pang and Dr. Warraich. Dr. Pang is a resident, at least at the time of this writing, third year medical student rather, out of Johns Hopkins. And then the senior author is Dr. Warraich, who is an associate director of the heart failure program at the VA Boston healthcare system, and also is practicing at the Brigham and Women's Hospital, my old stomping grounds. So that's a little bit of background on the authors. And they open up the paper by giving kind of that historical evolution of the role of morbidity and mortality conferences or morbidity and mortality rounds. Of course, just like any paper written, over these past 2 years, it's kind of presented in the shadow of the the COVID-19 pandemic, and how that has really raised the stakes. And as I mentioned yesterday, just really exposed. It didn't create new stuff. It just exposed the gaps and the issues and challenges and deficits that we have in our current healthcare system. And so what the authors suggest, based on other research that is also kind of suggested that there's a deeper opportunity for maximizing the benefits of M&M rounds, is this humanizing of the M&M conference. And so really looking at creating an opportunity for us to not only reflect on the medical management and that sort of thing, but really start creating a space for clinicians to actually be human and talk about how the experience of caring for these individuals has impacted them. What are the strategies that we can bring to bear in supporting these healers, in supporting these professionals in the course of the work that they do? That it is that human dimension that really becomes the turnkey, the transformative element of healthcare. It makes or breaks a lot of whether or not these individuals will survive and thrive through their illness and beyond. And we've seen that in the wake of the COVID pandemic, where so many patients were isolated from their loved ones, and how that really potentially contributed to their demise, without having that counterbalance of resilience and all of the physiologic activation that comes from feeling loved, feeling cared for, feeling supported, giving us that will to live, if you will, that in those isolated moments when you're overwhelmed with your medical condition and those feelings of despair can actually speed up your demise. So I thought that this was a really cool thing. It's nice to see people talking about the importance of really getting in touch with our humanity as clinicians, because as we go, the care that we provide goes, right? And we've talked about that over the course of these past 9 days. So in summary, they make some recommendations. Our primary recommendations are to create space to be human and for reflection within the Morbidity and Mortality Conference. MMC is their acronym. And to define a new humanistic charge for this forum, one reflecting humanistic principles such as compassion, empathy, and respect. That the MMC, generally the conference with the broadest reach, has historically been effective in changing institutional culture. So it's that idea, an inch is a cinch, a yard is too hard. If we start in these small core groups, we can have that spillover, we can have that momentum to begin that transformation that is so critical. They even put in some suggestions. Participants in more human-centric MMC may ask questions such as, how did we comfort the patient's family following the patient's death? Did we succeed in helping the deceased fulfill any final hopes and dreams? And what was the personal impact of a patient's adverse outcomes on the well-being of the healthcare staff involved? I mean, these are just beautiful questions and critical elements that need to be consistently integrated into how we provide care to patients across the continuum. And then the second, these humanistic principles should be incorporated into shorter and more focused gatherings. So again, working through what structure will work best for your team, for your organization, with all of your competing priorities. So not to dismiss it, but be creative in how to make it work. And then the third is that an MMC focused entirely on the human aspects of medical care should be periodically arranged. So, kind of giving us that broad sweep of creating something that's going to serve serve our needs the best. So we obviously have to talk about the morbidity and mortality piece from a medical/surgical perspective with regard to safety, right? With regard to, you know, those quality metrics. What did we miss anything? What did we do well? The celebration piece as well is important. And then the human aspects. Sometimes, you know, talking about it too close to the event, individuals may still be too raw to do the reflection and share, but it's not up to one individual to make that decision. It has to be made with the group together to decide what is a bit, because maybe when you're raw, that is the time to talk about it. Or maybe for some, you know what, I need a little bit of time. So it's okay. So have those follow-ups. But play with this idea, test it out, identify what are the metrics that best serve your team, the things that you have to do, and then the things that are really going to enhance the health and wellness, confidence, and relationship orientation of the healers, you know, for subsequent experiences and encounters with patients that are going to be challenging, that are going to have life-threatening situations that may well not do as good as we had hoped under our care and under our watch. So really being open and honest about having those challenging discussions, and never forgetting that at the end of the day, we are all human. We all process these experiences, and instead of having people process them in isolation, process them together as a community of carers, as a community of healers, supporting each other in this important work to heal the hurts that often go unnoticed in our super technologically oriented healthcare systems and healthcare world. So that's it. That's today's paper. Check it out, and you know, if you do test this out, which I'm going to absolutely bring this to my teams and the folks that I do coaching work with and stuff, and make this suggestion. But share your comments, you know, in the comment box on the YouTube link. But also, you can always email me. I'm going to put the email, our general email here. I'm sorry, can't type. info@caringessentials.net. You know, let me know, what are your thoughts? What have your experiences been? What insights have you gathered through your kind of testing of change with this approach to M&M rounds? I was going to say something else, but it escaped me. So, all right, on that note, I'll let you go. Thank you so very much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for day 10. We're getting close to the end here. If you have any suggestions for papers that you'd like to talk about, feel free to email me as well. But I'm going to continue on this vein on the human side of healthcare over these next few days. So anyways, take it easy, stay safe, take care, and care well. Bye.